All right. Well, I was just talking like crazy there for a second. Had my microphone muted. As we go live racing here right now. All right. 1 second. All right. A little bit of technical difficulties there. We are a little bit low on track marshals tonight, so we're doing the new buttons that are installed. They are set at half a second, so it should shut the track off pretty quick. All right, looks like we have a little bit of technical difficulties there on green. Also having a little bit of a technical difficulty going on with the video currently. That's the wrong one. All right. Well, that'll work for the night, most likely. Anyways, I know you guys might have noticed that I wasn't here a couple weeks ago when we had a race. I was out sick, and it's good to be back. As we see currently there, Randy Kirtley underneath Dead Man's Bridge there, trying to work frantically at getting the glue out from underneath the green lane. As here recently, I've been told that this track is taking quite a bit of damage down there, and also up there on the S turn. So, anyways, my dad's working on getting all that straightened and fixed, and uh, if anybody can do it, I know he can. Of course, he's running for the points and stuff tonight, along with Ed Howe, Paul Woosley, and Glenn Burden. We'll get racing underway. Just flash over this weekend is sponsored by Oakley Motorsports. Their telephone number is 270-344-0912. They're for all your auto machine needs. These guys are well known, especially around the dirt racing and drag racing arenas, making very high powered motors. All right. Well, I'm back. Had to get a guy some quarters, wanting to play some pinball. Of course, you guys know we play pinball here at Lanes Raceway, and we're always excited about guys getting in there and playing pinball. Our number one popular pinball table this month is Godzilla. It's also what our tournament is for this month, and a lot of guys are really trying to get that high score. Currently, right now, I think Glenn Burton is in the lead with 100 million points. I think he unset my mother off of that pinball table. So she's also a big pinhead when it comes to playing some pinball around here. Got our close group of friends and family, and also people coming in from the road even talking about the pinball tables here at Lanes Raceway and how that they're really nice and upkept. We do pride ourselves in keeping a really nice pinball table. But back to Oakley Motorsports, I want to show you what these guys are racing for this weekend. Of course, tonight is just one of our races. We'll have two more races come Sunday. I believe it's two races. It might just be one. You hear the vacuum cleaner there in the background, but this is what they're racing for this race weekend. You see Oakley Motorsports there in the left of your screen there. That's their logo. So if you go to oakleymotorsports.com, you'll see that logo. They build competition engines there for dirt track and drag racing. You see the trophy there. This is Lanes Raceway's rendition of what I think Oakley Motorsports trophy should look like. So one of these guys is going to be able to hoist that thing high and get their picture made as they sign the drip here at Lanes Raceway. Mute that back feed there. Sorry about that. Looks like they're still working on getting the track going here. Go to see the guys there just standing around waiting. My dad, hard worker, I'll tell you what, keeping this tracker rolling. Looks like they might be about ready to go. All right, I just got word. We're going to... All right, whenever everybody gets ready, I'll start the race. I'm going to make sure to get a couple thumbs up out there from the guys, and then we'll get this thing underway. All right, now they're watching a screen with a 3-second countdown into a Formula One start. You see the lights. When the lights go out, it's green. So now we're back green. As I stated before, we have a small amount of track marshals here currently, so we have still the kill switches for the track marshals underneath, as they're going to try to live track this the best they can. But if it ever comes down to it and they can't reach a car in time or something like that, the racers are able to shut their own track off with a half-second penalty delay. As you see, these guys are really churning out them laps. Ed Howe coming around the high banks there, really giving it all he could give as we get a track call there. While the race is going on, let's swap to... So gives us a little bit more of a zoom-in look as we can tell who is... in the run-ins here closer. I'll keep you up to date as we race here. Who's currently in the lead right now? Randy Kirtley with a total of 8 laps, turning 9 just then with a meeting of 4.28. Just turning 4.23 as a track call was called. Currently, the best lap out right now is by Paul Woosley with a 3.688 on green lane, turning his 10 laps now. Ed Howell there in third place with 8. Glenn Burden with 6 there in fourth on red. To be expected, as red and white lanes are the longest of the lanes. But as I said before, the orange track tends to be the great equalizer for a lot of reasons. There's a lot of back and forth crisscrossing, so whatever lane is short ends up being long, and whatever lane that's long ends up being short. Middle lanes kind of just stay median, so it's really anybody's ball game. As we get a car coming off there, coming around the final corner of the track there. See Mikey Burden there putting that car on. We got Ed Howe there on orange, currently with 12 laps. Paul Woosley in second place with 14 on green. Randy Kirtley on white with 17, and Glenn Burden with 11 on red. See Paul Woosley coming around the high banks there in his baby blue car. Got some neck-to-neck racing there between orange and white, Ed Howe and Randy Kirtley. They're really giving it everything they can, and we see that Ed there comes off. Followed there closely by Glenn Burden now, as we see Randy Kirtley coming up on Glenn Burden there in the white lane. Going around Glenn Burden, giving it all he's got as he makes a good pass there. Glenn probably gave it a little bit of a lift. Coming around there hard. Glenn Burden really giving it what he can for the red lane as Randy Kirtley's kind of reeling him back in as we get a big, hard catch there on orange lane by Ed Howe there on the final corner. Is that where some of the longer guide flags catch there out of the S-turn. Everybody running consistently pretty good lap times here. The medians within 4 seconds. The highest there, Glenn Burden on red lane of 5 as we do a lane rotation. So currently we see there Randy Kirtley with 30 laps. Of course, this is the first heat. Usually Randy Kirtley, for some reason or another, tends to get loaded up on red lane as the very beginning, but this time he got white with 30 laps, or impressively 30 laps. A veteran when it comes to There I go talking again without the mic being on. Sorry about that. Had a little bit of technical difficulties there for a second as one of our mics out there got shut off for the track. So we take a quick look here again at the trophy that these guys are going for. Oakley Motorsports. Give these guys a call and get you a good competition engine built for your dirt car, late model, or drag car. 270-344-0912. It's also an auto machine shop. So not only do they do engines, but they can probably also help you with other things related to any kind of machining. I know for a fact my brother's had a couple engines from Oakley Motorsports when he was racing dirt car. And I'll tell you what, I don't know a whole lot about engines, but I can tell you this much. There was so much power in that car that it was even hard to take off in. So to say the very least, the guy knows what he's doing when it comes to building some really high horsepower machinery. We got 20 seconds. You see Glenn Burden there putting his car on. There next to him, Randy Kirtley there on red. You see them pulling their sticker cards there. That's to let everybody know where that they left off. Paul Woosley hooking up right there. you go. When you see the lights drop out, it's going green. See Randy Kirtley taking an aggressive start there on red as he really is moving there as he's catching up there with, and we get a little bit of a let off there by Ed Howe on white to let Randy go on by. We also see Paul Woosley there on blue, really storming in there underneath Dead Man's Corner. Both Paul Woosley and Randy Kirtley, as you can see, having some pretty good lap times here. Randy Kirtley with a 4:10, second fastest to everybody else on the track. Paul Woosley, first fastest medium, of course, on blue lane. Both these cars really neck and neck, as you can see 36, 37, and 39 laps there between the two. And a pretty good battle between Ed Howe and Glenn Burton there. As we get a track call there, you see on red, Randy Kirtley coming around in the red, white, and blue car. On the high banks there, fixing to enter into Dead Man's Corner under the bridge. Scroll back green, Paul Woosley's right there on his tail, followed closely by Ed Howe and Glenn Burton. As we keep wrapping around here, we see a little bit of an encroach there by Glenn Burton as he makes the pass there on the inside of Ed Howe as they roll back around. Ed Howe blipping the old trigger there on red and white. That's a veteran move if I've ever seen one. As a lot of you guys have raced on this orange track know that if you don't blip it there, you come off. As you see that one car there coming off. Maybe got a double tap there on one of the buttons there. Somebody needs to hit it. There we go. As we get this car put back on white, that's Ed Howe there. Just currently, you see about where that car is, there is a blip area for those that don't have their car perfectly set up and perfectly level. This track will boot you out there or about where you see Paul Woosley's belly there. You can see that in the light. There's another little blip area. Both of these areas can make this car jump out of the track. But as we go back racing, you see there Glenn Burton really aggressively shooting her down into the lane there as he passes Ed Howe there on white. Again, we see Paul Woosley reeling in, coming around also. Randy Kirtley there on red as they all start to bunch up there on the S turns. We see Ed Howe come out on the S turns there. And we get another flag call there. See there on blue lane, Paul Woosley. And we also see Randy Kirtley there on red lane. It seems like most of the passing is coming to be on a let-off there before they enter Dead Man's Corner underneath the bridge there. As we do another lane rotation here, we take a quick look here at the aggressive red lane there with 29 laps turned. Glenn Burton already did his red lane with also a decent amount of laps turned of 22. These guys just now, of course, getting warmed up. Average lap times by Randy Kirtley's 29.5. Closely there behind is Paul Woosley. These two kind of set apart from each other in the field, as Ed Howe and Glenn Burton are kind of together there with 24.5 average laps. But we're just now starting here as some of these guys are just now turning laps. I'd say a lot of it has to do with just consistency. I see a lot of consistency there in Ed, just trying to stay on the track, trying not to wreck, and trying to stay ahead of the game there. As you can see, a median there of his laps there, 24.5. You can really tell it as white lane he turned 24 and orange lane turned 25. It's a little bit ahead of the crowd there when it comes to turning laps there on white lane. You can see these guys nowhere to be found. Where are they at? You might be asking. Well, they're probably in the pits, but oh, well, looks like it's back up and running. Well, that's a good thing to see. So we see Paul Woosley there taking his favorite spot there in the corner. Loves that spot. And up there in the top right of your, top middle of your screen there, see Randy Kirtley there cleaning his braid on his car. This is always a good thing to do, is keep them braid nice and clean, nice and shiny. Clean off all the mud off of the car from all the glue that just got freshly laid on the track before we started racing. Now Paul Woosley heading back out, it looks like. And anytime you're running any kind of bushing car, it's always strongly advised to Oakley Motorsports, Competition Engines, Owensboro, Kentucky. Give them a call at 270-344-0912 for all your competition motor and machining needs. As these guys make some really high-powered, consistently good motors. I know my brother got a few of his victories with those motors, Chevrolet-based built motors for open wheel modified. Randy Kirtley there also helped him get those victories. A lot of hours, a lot of time working on those cars, a lot of back-breaking work. Also, Glenn Burton constantly there helping the guys get those victories and high points when they were dirt track racing. As we go back racing here at Lanes Raceway, we start dropping off these lights. Coming around there, Randy Kirtley there on green. You can hear the car scrape in the high banks of that corner, really putting off a lot of loud noise there. The key to a lot of this kind of racing, of course, Randy knows he builds a specific type of slot car to be as fast as it possibly can on this orange while staying on and having to blip as least amount as possible. You see Red Lane there, Ed Howe giving a good blip there. It's always a good idea to blip your car there on the red and white lanes. To come back around there on blue lane, Glenn Burton really cashing it in there hard also. You can hear these cars are straight dragging. Excuse me one moment. As we go and see what's going on here. Red lane there, you see Ed Howe turning 17 laps. Glenn Burton there with 20. Paul Woosley with 21, battling it out with Randy Kirtley with 21 and 22 laps. Both their median lap times turning pretty close to each other, within 0.2 of a second. Both of their best laps within 100th of a second of each other. These guys really got their cars tuned in there, battling neck and neck, giving it all they can give. We see them all bunching up there, coming out of the final corner there. We'll get them to come back around there on green, leading the way, Randy Kirtley. Followed very closely by Paul Woosley there on purple. And that's the heat. Let's go check out track. Currently, Mikey is watching our live stream here at Lanes Raceway. He's both live and watching us live. So as we see Randy Kirtley there with consistent amounts of laps turned, 29 on red, 30 on white, 30 on green. We also see some very consistent lap turns by Ed Howe also, just a few laps behind there with 24, 24, 25. This is a sign of a good, consistent racer as they turn consecutive laps like this. We look at the averages here, 29.7, 28.7, a lap difference between Randy and Paul, very close, and a lap difference right at it between Glenn Burton and Ed Howe. So we have pretty much a battle between these two racers here for who can turn the most laps as we turn this into our fourth round robin heat coming up here next. It's 1 minute and 45 seconds before we go green. We stay kind of focused here with the guys. Let's right, you see Ed Howe there wearing the Matador-looking shirt there, it seems. Randy Kirtley there in the top of your screen. Paul Woosley going to get his braids there cleaned real quick. All these guys making sure their cars are tuned up, doing well. You see Ed Howe there putting a little bit of light glue on his car. His tires there, wanting a little bit more grip out of the car. I always get asked questions all the time, like, what kind of tires should I drive on my NASCAR? Or what kind of tires should I drive on my 4-inch car? It's always a common question I get asked here, and I always answer it the best that I can, and I answer it like this. Do you want more grip or you want more speed? You can't have both. So, you know, depending on what track it is, depending on if you're trying to get that extra bit of speed out of it, you know, I would prefer people to do Wonder Rubber, Speed Rubbers, stuff like that. But if you're really trying to get that grip, there's really no substitute for fish rubber. Fish rubber is just, in my opinion, the grippiest of the grippies. As we go back 5 seconds. Road course stream here. You see there on blue, Randy Kirtley's red, white, and blue. On green there, Ed Howe's looks like the old Marlboro car. We got a car stalled out there on black. Looks like it's Paul Woosley's car there, having a little bit of a trouble. Possibly braids too low, too flat. Yep, I would say that's the issue. The braids are too flat up against the car. This happens a lot of the times as each one of these tracks got the braid on the top recessed a little bit differently. Hopefully he didn't hook his controller up. It looked like he was smelling his controller, possibly his controller got hooked up wrong, possibly, or maybe something else. As his car starts to go now, it seems. We got a car stalled out. It looks like Ed Howe's possibly stalled there in the S-turn. I heard a car take a pretty good wallop hit there on the top of the bridge. You see Bo McPherson there giving her a good old gentle tap back onto the track. It's coming back around there. Ed Howe really flying there on green. Doing a pretty good showing there with 8 laps currently. Second to Randy Kirtley's turned laps on blue. Randy Kirtley, a veteran on the orange track, as it used to be in his basement. Orange track, American Orange, one of the very first cut groove slot car tracks. Made by America, and a very popular track among slot car racers, probably one of the most popular ones. I was always a huge fan of the Blue King, but you got to have a lot of real estate to run a Blue King. I've also seen some guys run a paperclip track, which has always seemed to be very interesting to me. I would always like to run one. Never have actually ran one, but we'll say ran quite a few Blue Kings in my day. See these cars kind of bunching up there. On Purple Lane, you see Glenn Burton making a show of it. Our stream tries to catch up a little bit. See Bo putting a car back there on green. And our stream kind of snapping back in. I was just about to brag on this stream and how good it was doing. But now all of a sudden it seems to be kind of glitching out a little bit again. Let's go take a look at the TrackMate software real quick. Randy Kirtley, 121. Paul Woosley with 111. Glenn Burton with 102. And Ed Howe with 99. So you see Glenn Burton and Ed Howe really tight, close together with their averages. As we see Paul Woosley and Randy Kirtley pretty tight also with their averages. And also go to lanesraceway.com to at any time to check out the standings as we go to and check out the Fairview IT Cup Series standings. Currently, right now, Randy Kirtley is in the lead, followed by Glenn Burden and Gerald Suttle. Currently, total laps ran by Randy Kirtley is 2,120. Glenn Burden with 1,982. And Gerald Suttle with 1,855. Now, as for the road course, which we're currently driving laps currently right now live off my phone, but when it comes to how many laps have these guys turned versus how many laps have they turned currently right now in this race, this would be considered our road course, and Randy Kirtley has turned 235 laps total on the orange track before. So let's see if he can either achieve that or beat that time. Mikey Burden, always a help here at Lanes Raceway. As you see him come across your screen there, he's going to change the batteries out for our microphone that gives us our sound for the racetrack. Tends a lot of the times whenever you use these cheap batteries, like as you guys know, I'm pretty tight. I use the cheapest of everything, so I always get the big bulk packs of cheap batteries from local Menards or even the dollar store sometimes. You see Paul Woosley there on yellow, and on blue you see Ed Howe there. We're going to see how this starts as you see Glenn Burden and Randy Kirtley up there by Dead Man's Corner under the bridge. So we go green here. Got a nice good turn from these guys as they start heading out. Rotating around. Currently Randy Kirtley, 124 total laps. Paul Woosley with 115. See if I can fire up this application here and see how many total Paul Woosley has ran. So for Paul Woosley, September 11th, he turned 212 laps on September 11th, and he turned 209 on September the 25th. So today, October the 7th, we're going to see if he can turn more laps than that. So a lot of these guys, as the field is kind of somewhat small tonight, these guys are getting a little bit of an advantage. So these guys get somewhat of a little bit of an advantage here, as they're not constantly always having to drive as hard as they would if there was more people in the pack here. You see these guys ripping and roaring around there. We've got a pile of three there. So we get, looks like Randy Kirtley off there in the last corner. Get a yellow flag called. As we head back green again. Want to bring your attention also back to Oakley Motorsports, as currently they are this weekend's Lanes Raceway weekend race sponsor for both the orange and the oval tracks. Ooh, this looks like Randy Kirtley took a little bit of a boot there in the donut of the track. Got maybe a little bit of a love tap there possibly from Paul Woosley. You see my wife there putting cars back on as we hit a red flag, and We head back into probably a tenth of a second or so here to finish up this last heat. And that's it. That'll be a lane rotation. With the lane ending there with Ed Howe on blue lane and Randy Kirtley there on purple. We take a look at the track mate here. Laps turned, Randy Kirtley. Total laps, Paul Woosley, 136. Ed Howe, 128. And Glenn Burton, 128. Let's take a quick look at Glenn and Ed on their road course journey so far. So we see Ed, September the 11th, turned 173 laps. So he's really reeling that in really close. And on September the 25th, turned 195. So let's see if he's about that average of that 195. Let's see if he can get up there to that 195. Also, Glenn Burden here, September 11th, turned 170. And September the 25th, he turned 198. So you can see how close these guys really are. They're within just 3 or so laps of each other. And that's the crazy thing here about Lanes Raceway and how this series is working out and panning out. Everybody kind of clusters together into their own kind of group of where their car's running consistently for that week. But each week can change just like anything. And like I said, you know, this week we may have a guy in third, a guy in fourth, but he turns an extra 5 or 6 laps. So, of course, if he turns an extra 5 or 6 laps, he's going to want to keep that race versus race weekend sponsor. Give these guys a call for all your motorsports needs when it comes to building engines. These guys are some of the best. 270-344-0912. It's also an auto machine shop. I know a lot of guys really like their tolerances and clearances spec perfectly for whatever racing that they're doing. And Oakley Motorsports are those kind of guys. If I'm not mistaken, I believe they were leaders of the Engine Masters at one point. Of course, my dad, he always brings up the Engine Masters a lot of the times as we always talk about 351 Cleveland engines, as he had an old Mach 1 when I was growing up. And we always talk about how that Clevelands and Windsors and stuff tend to make a lot of horsepower in those. Of course, we are Ford fans, Ford family. 5 seconds before this race starts, see Ed Howe there, bouncing up and down with eager enjoyment there next to Randy Kirtley and Glenn Burden, sandwiched between the two. And Paul Woosley there towards the back there. As we go green here, they're on black lane, Randy Kirtley. Purple lane giving him a little bit of a push there, Ed Howe, as Ed Howe comes out there on the S corner. So we see Paul Woosley's car coming down a little bit there on orange lane, sliding down as the track glue on the tires. Looks like, ooh, we got a little issue there in the high banks as the yellow car, Glenn Burden's car, was not moving there on yellow. Hit strongly by Ed Howe there in his orange car there, or red car. So now we got a little bit of a cluster up here. Go back green there, a little bit of a push there by Ed. As Ed's pushing back through a little bit. Glenn Burden getting a nice coast underneath Ed Man's corner as Randy Kirtley comes off a little bit, getting a little sideways there. If at any time you guys are watching this stream and you like the stream, give us a like and a follow. And please follow us on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, as we try to live stream these very important races. And also keep up to date with where these guys are standing. Some of these guys here really putting in the laps, getting their races in. You can, of course, drop out 7 races for this season. But you want the most laps possible, and that's how these standings are done. As you see my wife give a little bit of a gentle nudge there to Glenn Burton on yellow. But yes, each one of these guys very competitive, trying to get their name up there as high as they can. top 10 places getting paid out. As I think the purse is right now currently at $2,800 and climbing. As each one of these race weekends that we do get a sponsor, we are adding to that purse 100% of what the sponsor gives. As we want to see these guys very happy and enjoying themselves. And, I feel like these guys are the reason Lanes Raceway even exists, and they need to be getting their accolades for sure. As these guys really have tried to put their cars together and race these cars as hard as they can, trying to inch out every last tenth, hundredth of a second that they possibly can while staying within the rules. Of course, we tech these cars here at Lanes Raceway, and we want everybody to be running equal and fair stuff here, as that increases the competition of trying to drive the best that you possibly can. That's what we want. Neck-to-neck racing, equal cars, equal running. But this is one of our open type classes. Really, the only restrictions are on the motor and the chassis. Everything else is, kind of design build from each one of these guys. Of course, the bodies they run have to be a NASCAR style body, 4-inch NASCAR style body. But we got some people running the JK NASCAR bodies, Mid-America NASCAR bodies, RTR, Ralph Thorne NASCAR bodies. All the way around, these guys just like what they like, and they choose what they choose. Now, you can choose a lighter body, or you can choose a heavier body, but there's both positives and negatives about choosing those. Of course, the positives being if the lighter the body, the better it's going to handle, the faster it's going to be. But of course, the heavier the body, the more damage it can take. As we end this rotation here, Randy Kirtley very much closely pulling. Like I said, Randy Kirtley on September the 11th turned 228, and September 25th turned 235. So he's got a chance at being able to get up there with an average of 30.2 laps turned. Followed closely there by Paul Woosley with 27.5. Paul Woosley really showing out with his NASCAR here recently, as he's been tinkering and really holding on true to his car and making that NASCAR as fast as it can be. Ed Howe, 25.7, very close with Glenn Burton's 25.3 average lap times. I mean, these guys are within 2 laps of each other. It could boil down to the very final heat to distinguish who's going to take the lead between these guys and take third place for tonight. But currently these guys, like I said, within 154, 152 laps. As we look at theirs, Glenn Burton, September 11, turning 170. So he's going to definitely surpass that in the next heat. But the 25th turning 198. Like I said, Glenn Burton and Ed Howe pretty much nipping at each other's heels. September 11th turned 173, Ed Howe, and 195 on September 25th. So I think both of these guys are probably going to break their all-time best for the road course tonight. So keep an eye out on these guys as they push to get those extra laps that they need to bring themselves up a little bit higher. All these guys are probably going to increase in the current standings tonight as when we implement these track times and these laps, it's really going to push these guys up. So keep an eye out on the website and see how far they go up. This round bits of the orange track. My wife there behind me, cracking up a little bit, giving a little bit of a wave there. You see Ed Howe going back to his lane spot. But I want to show you what these guys are racing for this weekend. As I always do when we get a little bit of extra time, 30 seconds here. You see the Gran Torino there, drag car. That's my dad's drag car. And the 71 Mustang, that's my iteration of what Dad's old 71 Mach 1 used to look like there. But there behind is the big deal. That's the trophy these guys are racing for to hoist up this weekend. First place will get to hoist that. Fairview IT Cup Series. Fairview IT is the reason for the season. Literally, they are the main sponsor for Lanes Raceway for the Cup Series, which is these NASCARs. And they also sponsored every single one. Fairview IT Management and also Oakley Motorsports for their generous contributions to Lanes Raceway and these fellow racers that are really trying to give it their all for these guys. As we see around about there, Randy Kirtley there on yellow, one of Randy Kirtley's stronger lanes. We see Paul Woosley getting put back on there on white as he's rounding about, really just giving it all they can give to get them extra laps there. Randy and Ed Howell just taking her deep there under the dead man's corner. So we get a stop here in the track, get another car put on there at the exiting corner there for the back stretch. As Paul Woosley really driving her hard, coming off twice so far on white lane, might be having a little bit of an issue there. You see Paul Woosley gambling for the big bucks there on white as he doesn't even blip. This could be detrimental, but at the same time, if you got your car set up, tuned just perfectly right, you can get a little bit of a nudge there and just nudge Ed out of his way there. We know a little bit of a come off there on orange with Glenn Burden. But as I was saying, if you got your car set up just perfectly true, perfectly fine for the orange track, probably enough guide flag washers or whatnot underneath the guide flag, it is possible to run it wide open across these little blip areas. But is it highly advisable? Well, I'll just put it like this. It's a risk that I take. It's a risk that some do take, and we get away with 90% of the time. But there is 10% of the time that it doesn't matter what you do. You'll hit it just right, just the perfect amount of bounce, and you're going to come out. It's the nature of the beast on an orange track, and that's just the way it is. So you just got to learn to blip, or you got to just take the risk. But a lot of these cars take the risk, and they'll have the car set up for it, and they'll bang it every time because they don't want to blip. When we take a look at the total laps right now, Randy Kirtley, 205 total laps, turning 24 on yellow, the best I've seen so far. Like I said, he's really reeling in his September 11th time right now of 228 laps total. So he's just 20 laps off of that with another heat left to go. So Randy Kirtley's really going to be able to put in a showing with 8 seconds left to go. Paul Woosley tied as we see a switch in the heats here. Ed Howe taking the lead from Paul Woosley. Paul Woosley currently off with 177 laps. Amazing turn of events here as we go take a look at the track. Looks like Paul Woosley only turning 12 laps for some reason. Maybe had some difficulties with his car. I wasn't paying that close of attention. You'll have to forgive me. But right now, total laps of 177, 174 between Paul Woosley and Glenn. It's anybody's ball game when it comes to second place here tonight. 174, 177, 179. All these guys is nipping at the bud of 24.9 of the low with 25.6 of the high average. I'm telling you what, it all boils down to this last heat. Who's going to take second place home? First place there, of course, locked in. Randy Kirtley looks like he's going to beat his high-end times of what he's currently turned on the orange track. So he's got a little bit of working out that he's done on his car. Of course, I check every one of these cars. Every one of these cars currently tonight, none of them running anything other than Eagle stamp motors. Eagle motor, Champion Flex chassis, what they come in, steel, not aluminum. Can't run aluminum pans. But nonetheless, that some want to choose. But here recently, a popular thing that the guys have been running, Mazzetti bushings. The very cool bushings has been really turning in some high times amongst the guys here, even better than Slick 7 ball bearings. So something to, just put out there for anybody that's trying to get just a few more laps in this current exchange. We see Ed Howe there working diligently on his car, as always. Of course, Ed Howe, known him pretty much my whole life. My brother and him, very good friends growing up. We used to all play Halo together. It kind of brings back memories. He come in here today and was talking about System Link and Halo. And how long ago that was, how we all used to get together and bring over big 4x3 tube televisions and split it 4 ways and link up our Xboxes and play a little bit of Halo back in the day. When we were intermediately doing that, well, on our night times, we was swapping up and doing a little bit of slot car racing there at at Slot City, and then that turned into the basement. These chairs are uncomfortable sometimes. Randy Kirtley's car there on orange as he goes back there. You see Ed, he's ready to get back to racing. 3 seconds before we see the lights. The lights drop, we're going green. You see the color scheme that we did for around the track here tonight. I got on Oakley Motorsports website, and I really enjoyed some of the sticker patterns they had on their valve covers. And one of them I seen was the colors you see on our LEDs, and that's what we represent, Oakley Motorsports. Their colors are flying high this race weekend, as they are currently our race weekend sponsor. You see Ed Howe putting Paul Woosley's car back there on red. Wish you could see it through the widget there on the screen for some reason or another, not connecting with Facebook tonight. See my wife giving a little gentle tap there on white for Glenn Burden as his car rounds about. Maybe possibly some engine trouble or a dirty braid, possibly. But we can swap to the big really close. At the bottom of the high banks there, you'll see a sticker there. Well, that's Oakley Motorsports sticker. Of course, I didn't make it big enough. But, you know, we live, we learn. We try to figure things out here at Lanes Raceway. And for our next sponsor, if we end up getting us one for this race weekend, we'll make those stickers a little bigger for you guys to see, or maybe make a jig to put it up in the camera to be able to view a little bit better. So we see Paul Woosley off there again, coming off of red. Maybe blip issues possibly. Currently, Randy Kirtley turning 230 laps with 52 seconds left to go. We get a car off there as my wife gets them back on really quick and efficiently. She's getting really good at track marshaling these cars. As you can see, she's lightning quick now. Right now, we got a few understudies trying to teach the ways here at Lanes Raceway. Maybe give me and my wife a couple days off to help each other out, as we didn't get a blip there on red lane by Paul Woosley. So you see he's getting a little bit of the suffering going on of the red lane. Wasn't affected by white or green, but it seems that red lane is affecting Paul Woosley's cars here. There's only one solution. You got to blip it. You got to blip it there by black lane there, over there closely by Ed Howe. Let's get another yellow flag here. 10 seconds left to go in this race for tonight, as we got swapped back over to the road. 200 blistering 41 so far for Randy Kirtley, as that is the best he has ever turned here. So he's really got that car turned out. 8 seconds left to go. With median lap times, very competitive. Ed Howe really getting into his own now as he's turning 3.95. His car very fast also. Paul Woosley's car very fast, but of course he's on red lane, suffering some of that hit there. As that's the end of the race. Randy Kirtley turning 244. His previous best, September 25th at 235. Ed Howe turning 209. Ed Howe's previous best, September 25 of 195. So he beat also out his previous best. Paul Woosley, 201. As we look at Paul Woosley's, his best was 212, and September 25th, 209. But having that little bit of trouble on white lane cost Paul Woosley today. So it's one of his worst, well, actually his worst road that he has ventured so far. Glenn Burden, 194. Glenn Burden, September 11th, turning 170. September 25th, turning 198. So he's just 4 shy of that. So this is a median turn pretty well for Glenn Burden tonight. So we take one quick last look at this trophy, ladies and gentlemen. This is what they're fighting for. This is the laps they're trying to accumulate this weekend. Who's going to bring it home? I have a strong feeling it's going to be one of these 4 guys, because they've been here for this race and they're going for another race. Get a drop of a microphone there. Hopefully that one still works later. But we took a look at this trophy. in all its beauty. Oakley Motorsports, our weekend sponsor. This is Donovan Kirtley, and I hope you guys enjoyed your time here at Lanes Raceway, watching these races, seeing these guys battle it out. I'm going to implement these total lap times here, and thank you guys for watching.